Elden Ring has been one of the best gaming experiences of my entire life. I loved it so much that I'm gonna gush about this game, screaming into the void. And for anybody watching, I'm sorry for the shit quality of the video, but this is all I got right now, and I got praises to sing and gods to slay, so buckle up. Also, full spoiler warning for Elden Ring. I'm gonna start with my favorite part of the game, the bosses. They are so cool, both in mechanics and design. Some of the more notable bosses that I can remember off the top of my mind are Morgott, Morg, Rykard, Renala, Radahn, Radagon, Godfrey, Malenia, Astel, Dragonlord Placidusax, Malekith, and so many more. Fighting against the bosses in this game truly feels like an epic battle, a spectacle for the ages to come. I'm going to talk in depth about some of the bosses, and the first one is very obvious for me because I'm an absolute addict when it comes to dragons. If something has cool dragons in it, then you don't have to work hard to convince me at all because I'll probably already be scrambling to go see it. Dragons are just majestic and regal, and I love them. So I was a bit down with the Dragon Boss battles in Elden Ring cause they are still a spectacle to behold, but they don't have the it factor that comes with an all-time favorite boss. But before I lost all hope, I ran into probably my personal favorite boss, Dragon Lord Placidusax. Everything about this encounter is just
Woo! Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for. That's what it's all about. Woo!
you enter the arena by sleeping in an open grave as time seems to pull back slowly, dragging you through the history of Faramazula as a storm swallows you up, and then you wake in the presence of the ancient king whose seat lies at the heart of the storm beyond time. You are in a colosseum with red lightning scattered about the place, and a storm rages all around the arena. Although those aren't really the scariest or the greatest part of this yet, as when you look up, you see this gigantic behemoth of a figure with two heads just peacefully slumbering away. Goosebumps start to ravage your skin as you hit the slow realization that you're going to have to face this ancient regal king as a mere human. Dragon Lord Placidusax, or as I like to lovingly call him, Plassy, has a really cool moveset. He can roar to smite you from the heavens with red lightning. He can breathe golden flames. He can imbue his claw attacks with red lightning to tear you apart limb by limb. Although my personal favorite attacks from his moveset are the lightning spear, because you see the dragon make a giant spear of lightning and then he stabs it into the ground and the music completely cuts away to leave you the room to think of the desolation that's about to ravage you as the ancient king slams his hand down onto the spear, quite literally nuking the battlefield as the music returns to remind you of the gaping maw of death. He takes flight and disappears into the ashes. As you frantically look about the battlefield trying to find him, you see a small storm slowly brewing, and then he swoops down on you, rending your flesh with his mighty hand. And as you think that's about the worst you can he can throw at you, and that you've survived this dire attack, you look behind and you see this giant two-headed dragon start breathing flames, and you cling to the comfort that you are too far away for him to hit you with this breath weapon. But the dragon shatters your foolish presumption as he focuses his fire to be so scalding hot that it looks like a laser. You frantically try to roll and run to get in close to Plassey as he lays waste to the battlefield. This is not even the most badass part. The Plassey we fight is an old withered version as he has lost two of his wings and two of his heads and his body is all beat up. So just imagine what a prime Plassey would be capable of. Just imagine the four lasers absolutely ravaging the battlefield. I think it's obvious at this point, but I'll state it anyway. Dragon Lord Placidusax is my top one boss from Elden Ring. Another boss that I was an immediate fan of just by aesthetics alone was Astel, Natural Born of the Void. Bro, this thing is just an amalgamation of nightmare fuel. Just look at it. The human skulls with pincers protruding out the cheeks, the bony, outstretched arms, the insect like body with four butterfly esque wings, and a large tail with a stinger at the end. The best way to describe it is eldritch horror, let's be frank. It is just horrid in the most fascinating way possible. The sounds produced by his attacks are music to my ears, especially when it does the gravity field and when it teleports. Next on the list would be Radagon. He just looks raw as fuck. Just look at him walking up to you with the exaggerated swagger of an abusive parent. He just proceeds to absolutely wallop you with a hammer. The rune carved into the inside of his body just adds so much badass points to his look. And more on the abusive parent front are some of his attacks, like his grab attack, where he puts his hand up, making you fear in anticipation of the ass beating you're about to receive if you mistime this dodge. And if he ends up grabbing you, then he pins you to the ground and proceeds to smack the shit out of you with the hammer twice. And then we have the original Elden Chad himself, Godfrey, the first Elden Lord. Not only is his design just the perfect combo of regal and brutish, his voice is heaven in auditory format. Because it just rumbles through your body, making you jump in your own skin out of fear and respect. But it also puts you at ease with its calmness.
Long and hard didst thou fight, tarnished warrior, spurned by the grace of gold. Be assured the Elden Ring resteth close at hand. Alas, I am returned. To be granted audience once more. Upon my name as Godfrey, the first Elden Lord.
Godfrey is an absolute beast. His stature and his moveset match perfectly as he just produces ground shattering attacks. His speed breaks the sound barrier, and from what I remember, he is only one of three bosses that give you respect instead of just going, foul, tarnished, your parents will never love you, you're pathetic, you're a picture in a book for the blind. Instead, Godfrey says this upon you defeating him.
Brave, tarnished, thy strength befits a crown.
The second of those three bosses is Moog, the Lord of Blood. I love his design and his voice. His horns, his ornate robes, and his trident just incites goosebumps. You should take a look at him for yourself.
Dearest Mikola, you must abide alone a while. Welcome, honored guest, to the birthplace of our dynasty.
Hearing such a heartwarming welcome surprised me. Well, this is about as heartwarming and welcoming we can get in a cruel world like Elden Ring, so just bear with me. I was taken aback with happiness with such a heartwarming welcome. But it was quickly spoiled when I remembered that Moog is a pedophile. But regardless, let's ignore the pedo part for our sanity and talk about his other features that will help him do very innocent stuff, like murder and pillaging. Like his blood, which explodes and catches fire. And he really likes to rub that fact in your face, quite literally. And then comes the part which has fucked many a players during their first fights with the Lord of Blood. The lowercase subtitles are really ineffective at communicating just how much that attack fucks you over, because Moog uses Nihil thrice. You can't dodge it, and all three times it does percentage damage relative to your health bar. So the only way to survive this is by out healing Nihil, which can be done with 3 healing flasks, which is a big demand when you remember how valuable health replenishing flasks are when playing a Souls game. The last of the 3 respectful bosses is Malenia, Blade of Mikula. I'm gonna be honest, this fight was rough. I was no stranger to the fact that the entire internet was terrified of Malenia, and she was being hailed as the new hardest boss in a Souls game. So you better believe that I was very nervous and anxious as I was making my way to her boss arena. It didn't help that it took me like 3 4 hours just to reach Malenia. Because in order to reach Malenia, you need to fight through another tough and bullshit boss to get 2 halves of an item that lets you go into an area where you go to a city where you light 4 fires as an invisible enemy chases you and several archers with Call of Duty addicts level of aim repeatedly snipe you off of rooftops. This is still not the end, as lighting the fires then lets you go to the Helix, which is another gigantic and confusing area where every enemy is scaled so high that everything and their mother will one shot you. As you make your way through this confusing labyrinth, you'll eventually reach Malenia's boss room. I came face to face with the person that gave Radan a run for his money, and I died. A lot. Like a lot. I could never put into words just how difficult and punishing Malenia's moveset is, so I'll just show you.
Whoa! Oh my god.
Blade of Mikula.
And this is not even the end. She has an entire second phase which is significantly more troublesome than her first phase. We always think we're special and that bad things won't have happened to us, but let it be known that after a grueling fight, I finally dealt the final blow that put Malenia to rest, but I also got hit in the process. So both of us died at the exact same time. But the game didn't count Malenia as defeated because her dialogue as she dies is longer than my death animation. So since the demigod Feldbar didn't appear, I knew I was in for a hell of a time trying to defeat Malenia again. But I eventually did, and that may have been the most satisfying moment of my life. Now, on to some bosses I want to speak of briefly. First up is Morgoth. I really like this character and his lore. I'll speak about it later in the video. And I think he's a really neat boss because of how he plays with the player's expectation by delaying his attacks or just outright cancelling some of his attacks and then mixing and matching his combos. This guy just keeps on offering combos like he's out here trying to advertise a fast food chain. Just look at him.
Foolish ambitions to rest.
Next up is the god-devouring serpent, aka Praetor Rykard. In terms of spectacle, this fight is up there with Plassey because of the arena and the boss himself. The coiled up serpent in the distance looking like a beating heart, and the second phase, the music and the arena shift. Last up, we have Malekith. Not only is his design sick as fuck with his beastly appearance, his black armor, his hair, and the black blade. This guy is an absolute menace because his moveset completely changes from phase 1 to phase 2. He just zips around the battlefield just slinging energy slashes of destined death at you. But let's not forget the most difficult boss that has every Souls veteran chewing on their nails. Fall damage. It's weird how a character can somehow tank a lightning spear, yet we die if we fall a single step more than 20 meters. Come on, man. Alright, I'm done gushing about the bosses for now, so let's move on to another thing that really surprised me about Elden Ring. It's the open world. As someone who has played a lot of Far Cry and Assassin's Creed games, I wasn't expecting much from the open world cause majority of the times it's just a big space with very shallow monkey brained activities sprinkled in. So imagine my surprise when playing Elden Ring that every part of the map not only has its own identity, it has its own lore, it has its own unique bosses, it has its own unique enemies, etc., etc., and etc. on we go. My favorite area of the game would be Farum Azula, which is obvious cause dragons. But even disregarding that fact, Farum Azula is such a cool location because of its just the history. It's the dying remains of a city long dead, suspended in time amongst a storm. How cool is that? Plus, all the broken pieces of ruins we've seen in Limgrave and some other areas are pieces fallen from Farum Azula. Also, the storms and the desolation just propel it to my number one. Although Altus Plateau isn't far behind Farum Azula in my favorites list, and to be more specifically, the location Lanedale. Playing through Lanedale took my breath away. Seeing the majesty and the pristine condition of the royal capital while the outside world is just fucked was fascinating. Not only is Lanedale beautiful, it also houses the gigantic corpse of Gransax, the biggest dragon to ever exist. The dragon who attacked Lanedale during the Dragon Rebellions. Besides all this, the best thing about Lanedale is the music. The Lanedale theme is auditory euphoria. This theme just slaps. It makes you feel the majesty of these walls and the might it houses. Take a listen for yourself. The open world here is rich and dense. Ubisoft could never make something like this. I would complete everything in a Ubisoft open world because I wanted to get all the resources as quickly as possible and to make the even more mind-numbingly simple missions go by faster. But in Elden Ring, I explored because I was in awe of the lands between. I wanted to know everything about everything as far as my eyes could see because everything was interesting, whether it was the locations themselves, the items, the bosses, or the enemies. FromSoft likes to troll the players a lot, and that is the perfect explanation for the stark difference between exploring Limgrave and Caelid. Exploring Limgrave is like you've just been isekai'd into a new and beautiful world that is just open for you to explore and conquer. But just a itty bitty distance away is Caelid, where dreams go to be skinned alive. Seriously, just look at this hellscape. If Limgrave was prairies and sunshine, Caelid is broken dreams and a despairing black hole. And since this is a From Software game, one of the first dungeons that you will probably encounter as you start your journey in Elden Ring has a trapped chest that transports you about yay far into Caelid. where not only are you severely underleveled, you are surrounded by a lake of rot that melts you if you step in it for too long. The area also has rot breathing dragons, a giant mama dragon, and the most fucked up interpretation of the word doggos. Now, on to another aspect of Elden Ring that I love, which is the philosophy. But unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to delve deep into it because I don't think I'm either eloquent or tactful enough to represent my ideas and experiences properly. So I'll just give you my general idea regarding the philosophy in this game. Even then, please excuse the poor structure and possibly the words from this section. First of all, playing and thinking about Soulsborne game has made me a significantly better person and has made my life significantly better. The idea of not being afraid of mistakes and trying to get better, innovate, and introspect has made me a significantly better person than I was before I played these games. These games helped me deal with the reality that life does suck and bad things keep happening to good people and people keep getting the short end of the stick. And there is no grander reason for it other than that's just how it is. This realization had hit me pretty hard, and I was very down in the dumps, and I had started neglecting my social, physical, and mental health because of it. But after playing Elden Ring and the Dark Souls series, I'm now much more introspective, kinder, and respectful, and I'm gonna continue to lift my best foot forward and be better as a person. I'm most definitely gonna mess up at several points, but I'll always get back up, try again. After all, the most important step a man can take is the next one. I think I'm probably going to create a whole video dedicated to this topic specifically when I feel I'm capable enough to give it the shine and the care it deserves. Next up are the characters, and I love all of them. I'm not going to go into the nitty gritty of their journeys, but I'll just list some things that come to mind right now. Morgoth and his self hatred that materializes in blind faith for the Golden Order just to justify his own existence to those he considers his quote unquote betters. And then we have Moog, Morgoth's twin brother. Moog went the complete opposite direction as from Morgoth. Instead of being self-hating and developing this complex where he helps his abusers, Moog accepted his cursed lineage that leads him to reject the entire status quo of the world that Morgoth works so desperately to protect. And Moog goes off on his own to form his own dynasty that will one day maybe rule the lands between. Then we have Rani and her crusade against the greater will and the outer gods' influence upon the lands between. Rani despises the outer gods because they hold the destiny of the people of the lands between in the palm of their hands. She doesn't want to live her life being controlled by such beings, so she continues the fight to remove such an influence. And then we have Millicent and her quest to find her identity and learn why the scarlet rot affects her the way it does. We have Alexander, the warrior Jar, the pot bro, his journey to be a warrior of great renown, to honor the innards of the great warriors contained within him. Yeah, you heard me right. The great warriors contained within him. And then we have Master Hugh, the blacksmith at the Round Table Hold. His imprisonment and the unreasonable demand placed on him by Queen Marika herself to forge a weapon capable of slaying a god. And we have another member of the Round Table Hold, Dialos. He's a noble, and his journey of trying to step out of his brother's shadow and be his own man with his own brand of heroism is heartwarming because I can relate to it a bit, not the brother's shadow part, but just being your own man part. And there are so many more of these wonderful characters in the lands between that are just waiting for you to go and talk to them, complete their quest, learn their whole journey. And I loved every single second of it. So, in conclusion to this very poorly structured video, From Software has truly done it all with Elden Ring. It is an absolute masterpiece in my eyes, and I'll be playing it for years to come. Thanks for everyone who made it to the end. I hope you have a blessed rest of the day. Please like and subscribe if you want to listen to me ramble about more things I like. Trampling Beast signing off.